Hello everyone, this is Sudhanshu Sarkar, Assistant Professor, Department of Electrical Engineering, Narula Institute of Technology. Today I am going to talk on a topic of switchgear and protection. Switchgear and protection is a subject which is very important for electrical engineers. So mostly for the diploma electrical engineer and the professional engineers. So here in this subject, I'm going to talk about the basics and fundamentals of mm, switchgear and protection. So in this subject, we have the lesson plan and fundamentals of switchgear and protection. Then unit 3 in protective relays. Different types of relay system is there. So I'm actually talking on that. And then the equipment protection. So in today's topic of discussion is a very interesting one. This is the topic of power system protection. So mainly in this lecture, I will talk on the primary and backup protection. So the content actually for this topic is number one, the introduction, then I'll talk about the components, then protective devices, then types of protections and coordination, and finally the performance measures. So these are the main topics of content for today's lecture. So here the introduction. In introduction for this lecture, I can say that the power system protection is a branch of electrical power engineering that deals with the protection of electrical power systems from fault through the isolation of faulted parts from the rest of the electrical network. For that reason, this chapter is so much important. Now, the component protection system usually comprise 5 components: current and voltage transformers, protective relays, circuit breakers, batteries, and fuses. So these are the 5 components for the protection system usually we use. As current and voltage transformer, that is under the instrument transformer. Then there are different types of relays there. The circuit breaker is also there. Batteries and fuses are another protection device we use for electrical power system protection. And the current and voltage transformer, you all know about it because I have made few lectures on these two topics specific about the CT and PT, or you can say the VT. So current and voltage transformer to step down the high voltage and voltages and current of the electrical power system to convenient levels for relay. So this is the figure of a current transformer, the diagram of a current transformer, and that is the voltage transformer. Normally the secondary current of the current transformer is 5 ampere generally, and the voltage transformer is 110 volt or 120 volts. And the protective relays, you all know that protective relay, there's different types of protective relays and it is basically used to sense the faults and initiate a trip or disconnection. And if you talk about the circuit breakers to open or close the system based on relay and auto reclose commands. So this is the digital relay and this is the circuit breakers we used to break the circuit when fault is there. Is basically getting the sense from the relay and then it disconnect the faulty section from the live line. Now the battery is another important part for batteries to provide power in case of power disconnection in the system. And finally the fuses. For parts of distribution system, fuses are capable for both sensing and disconnecting faults. Now protected devices, finally I can say functionality about the functionality of protected devices. Automatic operations such as auto reclosing or system restart, monitoring equipment which collects data on the system for post-event analysis. So this is the functionality of the protective devices. These two is the basic functionality. So in the first one, you can say the automatic operation we can do with the help of these protective devices such as auto reclosing and the system restart, and monitoring equipment that it can help to monitor the equipment which collects. It is basically doing it by itself. Collect the data on the system of the past event for past event analysis. Now the parts of protective devices. There are three parts of protective devices: instrument, transformer, relay, and circuit breaker. So this is the figure of a circuit breaker, this is the relay, and this is the instrument transformer. So you can find it from this diagram. Now the major advantage of protective device, let me talk on that. The major advantage of protective device is the first one is the safety, second one is the economy, and third one is the accuracy. So this is the advantage of protective devices in the system. So please remember this: the safety, economy, and the accuracy is the most important advantage for the protective devices. Now the types of protection, you know that this is the basic and the major topic for today's lecture, that is the primary protection and backup protection. So how many types of protection is there? There is one is the primary protection, that is the first protection, and backup protection means the secondary protection. Now let me talk on this. So you all know that about the primary protection is the first protection, or you can say it's like the primary protection is the first line of defense and is responsible to protect all the power system elements from all the types of faults. Okay, so for that reason, this is called the primary protection. This is the first line of defense and is responsible to protect all the power system elements from all the types of faults. So that it is called the primary protection. Now the primary protection diagram is, you can find it from here, you can realize it from here also. This is the main bus, and with the main bus the line buses are connected. Then this is the overcurrent relay, this is the circuit breaker. So the relay is connected here through the circuit breakers. If fault occurs, the relay give the signal to the circuit breaker and it will disconnect the faulty section from the line. So in this way we connect the primary protection of the system. Then the primary protection may fail due to the following reasons. Sometimes the primary protection may fail. There's some reason for the failure of the primary protection. So why? What is the reason? Failure of DC supply to the tripping circuit. This is one of the reasons for the failure of the primary protection. Another one is the failure in relay operating current or voltage. This is another reason. The third one, failure in circuit breaker tripping mechanism. Next, the fourth one is failure of main protective relay operation. Then failure in the wiring of the relaying system. And finally, the failure of the CTs and PTs operation. So these are the main reasons for the that primary protection may fail due to the following or these 6 reasons. Now backup protection, the backup protection comes into play only when the primary protection fails. Okay, so when we disconnect primary protection for testing or maintenance purpose, then secondary or backup protection will act as primary protection. So these are the two main reason for the backup protection. It is required. Backup protection comes into play when only when the primary protection fails. So if primary protection fails, then the backup protection is required. And then secondly, when you disconnect primary protection for testing or maintenance purpose, then secondary or backup protection will act as primary protection. Now the backup protection, look here in the first diagram there was can you remember that there was a main bus, and with the main bus directly the line buses was connected, and then the other part, this part was similar, like when we draw the primary protection. But here additionally we add a circuit breaker and the overcurrent relay in between the main bus and line bus. So if anyhow the line bus circuit breaker and relay fails, then the circuit breaker and relay between the main bus and line bus will operate. So here this part is actually acting as an secondary or backup protection. Now types of secondary protection or backup protection, let me talk about that. That what are the different types of backup or secondary protection is there in the system on the line. So types of secondary or backup protection is number one, I will say the relay backup protection, then and number two, then breaker backup protection, number three, remote backup protection, number four, centrally coordinate backup protection. So these are the four types of secondary backup protection. So these are all important, and you need to realize relay backup protection is first one, then breaker backup protection is the second one, then remote backup protection is the third one, and the fourth one is centrally coordinate backup protection. So these are the four types of backup protection we can use. So relay backup protection, let's talk first talk about the relay backup protection. So for relay backup protection in this scheme, single breaker is used by both primary as well as backup protection, but the two protective relays are different. So this is the main purpose, or this is the main in this scheme. What happened? A single breaker, only a single breaker is used by both primary as well as backup protection, but the two protective systems are different for relay backup protection. Now breaker backup protection, second one, in this method or in this breaker backup protection, separate breakers are provided for primary and backup protection. Yes, here separate breaker are provided, but both the types of the breakers are at the same station. Okay, both the types of the breaker at the same stations. And then the third one is remote backup protection. Remote backup protection, separate breakers are provided for primary and backup protection. The two types of breakers are at the different stations and are completely isolated and independent of each other. Okay, so remote backup protection means separate breakers are provided. There will be separate breaker for primary and backup protection. The two types of breakers are at the different stations. So two breaker will be in different station and they're completely isolated. There will be no relation with each other and independent of each other. Okay, so this that's why it is called the remote backup protection. Now the fourth one, centrally coordinated backup protection, and this is the last one in this method, or you can say the centrally coordinated backup protection. Here, a primary protection is at various stations. So there is a central control room, and backup protection for all the stations is at central control room. Central control continuously inspects the load, flow, and frequency in the system. If any element of any part of the system fails, load flow gets affected, which is sensed by the control room. The control source consists of a digital computers which decides the proper switching action. The method is also called centrally controlled backup protection. So this type of control system or protection system is called centrally coordinated backup protection. Now the coordination, let me talk about the coordination. Protective device coordination is the process of determining the best fit timing of current interruption when abnormal electrical conditions occur. The goal is to minimize an outage to the greatest extent possible. So this is this is actually called the coordination. So here in the section of coordination, protective device coordination is the process of determining the best fit timing of current interruption when abnormal electrical conditions occur. The goal is to minimize an outage to the greatest extent possible. Now the performance measures. Okay, so we can measure a protection system performance with the following. So what is that? That first one is the reliability, then selectivity, then speed, economy, and simplicity. We have already gone through this several times in this chapter. because before that I already make a 13 lectures on the same topic. So for that reason, the performance measurements, we can measure the protection system performance with following: the reliability, selectivity, speed, economy, and simplicity. Now, on this topic, if anyone have any queries, any doubt, or anything like this, so you can share with me anytime. I think question is there, because if you read it carefully, question will arise. So let me I think you have need some times, and this is one of the most special type of lectures, and this is a very important lecture also. So first, go through the lecture again. Let me give you an overview again for this particular chapter. Then I will. So it was introduction, components, and protective devices, types of protection, coordination, performance measures. The first we talk about the introduction of this, then the components which is required for the protection purpose. Now the content we talk about all the topics of current and voltage transformer, protective relays, circuit breaker, then batteries, about the batteries is acting as an protection, and then fuses, the protective devices functionality. We talk on I talk on this automatically operation and how this is actually operating. Then the parts of protective devices, that what are the main parts of protective devices, like circuit breaker, relay, instrument, transformer. Then the advantage of protective devices, so what is the advantage, how it operates, safety, economy, and accuracy is the main purpose of these types of operation, primary and backup protection. Then we talk about the primary protection. So primary protection diagram is also there. Then start about the primary protection, why may fail due to the primary protection may fail due to the following reasons. So sometimes the primary protection may fail, then the backup protection is required. So then I talk about the backup protection, and then after the backup protection I go to the draw the showed if the backup protection, that how the backup protection is connected. So if the primary protection is not sufficient, sometimes the backup protection is required. So backup protection is very mandatory for all the systems. So then I discussed about the types of the secondary or backup protections, and then the relay backup protection was there, backup protection was there, remote backup protection, and centrally coordinated backup protection. So here the explanation of the relay backup protection, then the backup protection of breaker, then it's the remote backup protection, and finally the centrally coordinated backup protection. So this was the main and the basic topic for today's lecture. So then, and finally I talk about the coordination, that what is the coordination. The protective device coordination is the process of determining the best fit. Okay, so this coordination is very much required. Best fit timing of current interruption when abnormal electrical conditions occur. Okay, the goal is to minimize an outage to the greatest extent possible. Fine. Goal is to minimize an outage. So engineers, or you have to remember that the outage is not good for the system. So always remember this. So your goal should be minimizing the outage of the system to the greatest extent possible. Then the performance measures, we can measure the protection system performance with the following. So how can we measure the performance? That is the reliability, selectivity, speed, economy, simplicity. So all these 5 terms need to be considered for the increasing the measure the protection system performance. And then, and now I'm asking you that if anyone have any queries, any question, anything regarding the topic, just mail me. You can contact with me anytime, but before that, follow some books, follow some different types of notes, and so you may mail me. My mail id is sudhanshu.shalkar@nit.ac.in. So just send me a mail, so I will talk about the doubts of everyone. I think this will be helpful for all of you. Now this is the reference. So to make this video lecture, this reference helps me a lot. Now thank you everyone. Thank you for watching the video, for this lecture, hearing the lecture. So thank you all. Best of luck. Bye bye.